other than Jeff Nyquist and Johnny Anderson. We are here to show everybody what's going on in the world. We're going to talk about Belarus. We're going to talk about Iran, Israel, Russia. There's a lot going on out there. So I want to make sure that you guys are in the know. So, Jeff and Johnny, welcome, gentlemen.
Thanks for
Glad
having
to
us
be
back.
here. Yep.
Yeah, well, appreciate you guys coming in here. Uh, Jeff, we didn't get to finish off with everything that you had the other day. And so I guess we will start out by finishing off all of the is stuff in Belarus. And then we can get into talking about what's going on over in Israel and Iran and the fact that uh, Iran just ordered a evacuation of nuclear sites or of the Israeli nuclear site. And I'm going to check something here because,
When you said Jeff, did you mean me?
yeah, I meant you, Johnny. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's
I'm,
okay. I
I'm
kind of figured you're extremely tired.
yeah,
You told me about how you literally just got back. You just drove straight through from about a third of the way across the country.
yeah. I drove in from London. Well, basically, I left Washington, D.C. and drove to London, Kentucky. Slept for about an hour or two, sitting in a chair, and then did the survey of the tornado damage around London, Kentucky until about 5 o'clock yesterday evening, and then jumped into the van and drove all the way back here to Dallas, get back to the studio. And I literally just pulled in an hour ago.
Well, you have all of
So,
my respect, sir.
yeah, well, I appreciate you guys coming on here and dealing with my lethargic uh, mental faculty here.
I think we've all been there a time or two.
Yeah. So, D Brown, we're not worried about China right now. It's part of the issue, not the main part. So Johnny, if you would, where do we need to go here? And do you want to send me lat lawns or how do you want to do
Yeah, I will be sending you lat lawns, but
that? Okay.
we're going to start with the double S 400 site. You know exactly where that is.
Yep.
It's going to be just west of Haradna. We're going to start there. Now, these two sites that, yeah, it's going to be further south. Be right along the border there. Um, these two sites
Oh, no,
are,
no. That's up here.
it's up just south of the Savaki Gap.
Yeah. I
You on the right
thought
map?
I had it. I thought I had it on here, but I don't have it on this one. Interesting.
I thought that was the correct map. I will send you the.
No, no, it's here. It's here. I'm at the wrong
Okay,
spot. Too far north.
it's okay.
Here we
It's
go.
been a long day. It's been a long day.
Yeah.
So these two sites here, the reason you found these sites in the first place is because you found an S 400 crossing a bridge in Haradna and turning right.
Yeah.
Well, and we're going to come back to that S 400 site here in just a minute. But this goes to the larger point. The bridge that you found, where it came across, if you follow this road up, which I did, you follow this road dead north, you're going to run into a new housing development up there, new apartment complexes. They're going to be just to the east there, right there. See them?
These are the ones over here.
No, sir. Further east. Other side of the road. You're right over there. Yep. You're going to run into these. Now, these have all been built just like we saw down south in the last 36 months. Now, Haradna's been one of those cities that we've been keeping an eye on, where we've got all those buildups that we were looking at when we were on with Brian Hay a few weeks ago. If you're to go west of here, just a little bit through that wooded area, just northwest of where you're at there, you'll run into a facility here. Now, this facility is relatively new, as in they have built it in probably the last year and a half, 2 years, and it took them less than a year to build it. What's interesting is this facility is all underground except for what you can see on the surface, and you can see it is active. Now, all of the construction that's taken place behind it is what caught my attention. If you're to go back to, if you can pull history, please, and go back to 2014. And voila, what do we have?
Wow. S400
We've
site.
got an S400. We've got an S400 site, a very large one. You've got barracks also, just to the east on the other side in the wooded area there. A lot of vehicles there. So this is a very active facility. Now, right in the center of this complex was something that caught my attention. If you were to go, just to the right of that marker there. Right? No. Too far. You don't want to go to that building. You want to go, right there where your mouse cursor was. Yeah, right there. Yeah. That's what caught my attention. I said, well, what on earth is that? Well, if you go to 2018 and you go to the second tick past 2018, next one up. What do we have here?
Oh, you got a hell of a tunnel.
Goodness gracious, what do we have here? We've got an underground facility. They've already built it, and they've been in the process of making it larger. Now, they didn't need the S400 site here any longer. You don't want to manufacture and have your all of your assets and all of your eggs in one basket. That just doesn't make any sense. So what you want to do is you want to move your S400 site, and that's what they've done. Now, if you're to go 3D on that area, if you're to go to modern times, and then go to 3D, just look how well that facility is situated in that little valley there. It is the highest point, and it's got coverage from just about every single area. And I bet you that they have hollowed out all of that around there.
I wouldn't doubt it. We'll have to go fly that.
Yeah. So this is your S400 manufacturing facility, your underground S400 manufacturing facility.
Gets more interesting all the time.
Yeah. Well, it's going to get more interesting here in just a moment. As I said, that all that housing on the to the east of it there, that's all new in the last 36 months. So they've got a lot of personnel that they've been bringing in and moving in into that city.
I want to get my S400.
It's going to be the bottom row.
No, I wanted to put it.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So I can come back and fly this. I want to take a look at that. Okay, next spot.
Next spot, you're going to go across the road from those apartment complexes, and just across the road from that, on the other side of it, the east side of those brand new apartments, what do we have here?
Another government facility.
We've got an underground facility. Right in the middle of town, and this is an interesting one. I've not seen one like this before, because not only do they have a wall around the outside of it, they've got a fence just on the inside of that wall, and then they've got fences around the buildings that are on the inside of that fence.
Wow. Yeah, this one needs a
Yeah,
place
you're going to need a
marker
marker on
too.
that one too. Jeff, you got anything you want to add? You want to jump in there on any of this so far?
It's all very, I mean, you see the kind of effort that's put into this, right? I mean, this is not, I mean, it looks from the air, it looks kind of simple, but you see what they've done. This is the military infrastructure. No wonder the country doesn't have enough toilets and running water everywhere. They're busy building this.
Yeah. We're going to go directly south of there, Lee. As I was looking around, you're going to come to a giant four-way intersection on the right side of your screen. The further south you go, you're going to see it
Cloverleaf
there.
here.
Yep. And then on the left side, straight down, right there, just in the middle of all those apartment complexes, the right of the wooded area. No, south.
Oh, right here.
Right there. Yep.
Good
We have
God.
another. We have another underground facility.
Wow.
And these are not small. Yeah, these are not small by any stretch. Just what we can see from the air, each of these are over a square kilometer in size. And I would bet, based on what we've seen and how they do these underground facilities, I would bet, and if you guys throw your opinion in there, I would bet that they would have tunnels linking each one of these.
Sure looks like it. To have this many this close together.
Mm-hmm. So you have this one, right? We're going to go directly south of here across the river. And if you zoom down from there, we have another underground facility.
Holy cow.
This one has so much stuff going into it, it's got its own water tower.
Yeah.
And I'd like to point out, again, wall and then fence around that. As you can see it on the west end of it there. You can see the shadows that coming off of the large fence they got there.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to point out each one of these, if you go directly south of here, you'll see a massive substation. Each one of these has a massive substation right next to it. There it is. Yeah. Each one of these facilities has one just about this size or a little bit smaller outside of it.
HF antenna array.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. This is a huge communications facility. Look at all the communications towers. Wow.
So we have that underground facility. If you go not sure what that is. It looks like a toll checkpoint, maybe.
A gas station. Those are saying
It could be
is,
that too, yeah.
But I find it interesting. It's right beside this facility.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? The next one is going to be over at the where they have the mechanized brigade. Of course, we've seen that one before. But that's, again, that one is going to be just as big as all of the others. And it's got, it's going to be on the southwest side of town where the little tank icon is. Just to the left.
Here?
Just north.
Oh, here. Okay.
Right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you go there, you'll see that facility there. It's just to the southeast side of it.
Yeah.
Right there. Yeah, that's the one. So again, and I mean, all these underground facilities in one area, in one city.
Yeah, it's uncommon.
Very uncommon.
Learning more every day.
Yeah. So back to the original point here. We're going to go all those facilities. I mean, you're going to need massive command and control. Back to that double S-400 site to the west there. So we had surmised that it's possible that these facilities here have been to protect their assets that have been in the area. Okay, well, you got a lot of assets in Haradna, right? There's a lot of buildup there that we've been watching. We also have something else that struck me as odd. So the radars that are at this facility here, this one in particular, the HF over the horizon radar that's in the north corner of this thing. If we're judging this by, if we're judging this by that particular piece of equipment, all the other SS-27 sites that we've found have this particular radar within a couple of miles of wherever those SS-27s are. So I thought, okay, well, I need to start looking around for something that doesn't fit. And again, we're looking at underground facilities, and we're looking at how they link them together. They put in an underground command and control facility at this particular site. Is that correct? I heard you say once before.
Yes.
Yeah.
The entrance is right here.
Yeah. Now I would bet I'm just going to go out on a limb here. I would bet that because they have an exit somewhere else. I saw a door somewhere else.
Yep.
But they've got an exit somewhere else. But I would bet that facility also is connected to what I found in the north. What did I find in the north? Right up there, northeast from the S-400 site. Yeah, right there. There's a building there that just does not belong.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
These are antenna arrays.
Yes, they are.
Right here.
Yeah.
These are all antenna arrays.
Now, again, this particular building.
And it is an underground facility.
Yes, it is. They built this facility in less than a year. Now, what shocked me about this was you notice around this building, do you see a problem? On the outside of this building, do you see a problem? You notice the concrete that's been poured around it.
Right.
It's cracking.
Yes.
Well, I've become a bit of a concrete expert since I've seen this. I've talked to several concrete people, not the ones that do your residential stuff. I've talked to the people that actually mix the batches.
Right.
And they tell me that extreme pressure, quick pours, not necessarily will cause problems, depending on the grade that you have mixed in, what the filaments are. If you got the right epoxy, if you've got the right cure time, regardless of temperature, depending on how you make it. Well, that's how we do concrete here. That's not saying that the Russians or the Belarusians, in this case, do concrete the same way, which of course I would imagine they probably don't. But in this case, there has to be something extremely heavy in there to cause that kind of cracking.
Right.
Because they travel in threes, right? The three sisters, they travel in threes. If you've got 315,000 pounds of intercontinental ballistic missile in there, that's a lot of weight that you're going to be putting down. And I'll bet you that they did not have time, in the amount of time that they built this facility, I bet you they did not have the amount of time to reinforce that floor properly.
Or even think about it.
Big steel plates, or even think about it. Now, one other thing that makes me think that they're in there, and I'm going to run this by both of you, and I'm going to show you why I think this. Look around the outside of the building. Lee, if you can zoom in, and you can see what's there.
Tracks.
You can see the tire tracks going all the way around that building. And if you measure them, this building is 50 by 80, I believe. It's been a couple of weeks since I've taken the measurements because we've had the Iran Israel thing kick off. But there is more than enough clearance for them to be able to drive around this building, because If you let those vehicles sit too long, Lee, you know what'll happen? You'll get flat spots on the
Right.
tires of something that heavy.
Right.
And if you need to move them quickly, you're going to have massive blowouts, and those things are going to be absolutely useless.
Right.
So they have to take them out and continue to drive them around. So when the satellites do not pass over, they drag them all out and they drive them around the building, and then they put them back in. Now, how do I come to that conclusion? Right? They can make that turn too to get into the facility.
Yeah. I was just looking at that.
Yeah, they can make that turn. Now, how do I come to that conclusion? Now, if we're to go to this, Lee, I'm going to put a lat lawn in the chat for you,
Okay.
and I want you to take a run out to this place. And the reason I'm going to send you to this place is because this is where we can actually get a good view of what those tire tracks are like. This is going to take us out to our favorite Russian city, Novosibirsk, where they have a maintenance facility for the SS-27. This is one of the tracks where they test drive these things.
Yep.
And if you can zoom in on the large pads at either end of that, doesn't matter which one or even both if you like, take a look at the circles that they make.
Yep.
They
Right
are
there.
identical to what you see around that building, are they not?
Yep.
Also, we can get a better idea if you're to look at some of the other test tracks that they've got at this particular maintenance facility.
You could
We can get
also look at the facility in Kaliningrad that has them
Yes.
stacked up inside. It has the same black marks on the parking lot there, and that's a new parking lot.
Yes. Yeah. And as you can see, this concrete is a little bit different. They designed this just like airport runways with the section slabs to be able to distribute the weight properly. This is a good facility to take a look at because if you go to the east, directly to the east, you'll see an off-road course that they have there. And this is where they train a lot of their drivers. We're able to kind of get a better idea when we look at a site to find out if they're keeping SS-27s at a particular S-400
I
site
got 3 of
because
them sitting outside right there.
they do. Yeah, they've got just in the bottom left of your screen there, they've got 2 sites where they practice backing them into the garages that they build.
Yep.
So these are great bellwethers for us to take a look and decide where these things might be stashed.
And when we look at the other facility we found a couple weeks ago with all of the long buildings in there, it's got roads like this too.
Yeah. Now, to give you an idea, and I don't think anyone's ever seen this before, to give you an idea of how hard these things are to spot from the air in some cases, Lee, zoom out just a little bit. And if you go north and then dead west, stop and then go dead west, there's a storage yard right there. And they've got some of them out there under camouflage tents. And you can get an idea of how hard these things are to catch.
Yeah, here.
Yeah. If they've got one of these stashed in some wooded areas somewhere, it's almost impossible to see these things unless you know exactly what you're looking for. Jeff, you have anything you want to jump in on?
No, it's interesting to see what's going on here, and how far out and around do these tunnels and underground things? What else do they connect to?
Well, that's what I continue to work on. But like I said,
And
since Israel and Iran,
of
I haven't
course,
had
the
much time.
purpose of tunneling underground is to protect it from air attack, and from missile and nuclear attack, and cruise missiles. It becomes, depending on the depth of the bunker and the strength of it, it becomes difficult. And of course, the reason for having tunnels is to have different places you can pop up from if somebody does try to hit the bunkers. And the expense of it. I mean, the digging in the ground is not cheap. Anyone who's dug a basement knows. Anyone who's dug a tunnel knows. This is not.
No, you have to get it. You have to get it just right. You've got to have the correct architectural engineers in there, so you don't have cave-ins. You've got to get it just right.
Help from the Chinese.
So yeah, so that's all that I've been able to find in the last couple of weeks. But like I said, I would have had more time to look, but since Iran and Israel kicked off, I have not had time. I've been focusing on what's going on over there. But this I think if that's indeed what I suspect, and then based on what I've just shown here, if that's what's in that building just northeast of the double S-400 site, that would represent the closest SS-27 deployment to the NATO border that we've ever seen.
Yes.
And that would be less than 4 miles.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah. That's
and I love
right.
and this is concrete, not asphalt.
Correct. And look at where it
There
stops.
to there. Right.
It stops right there.
Right. That's concrete. That's a dead giveaway right there.
So explain why concrete there. What is it? What does it
Because
give away?
if it's a hot day and you turn one of these trucks sharp on asphalt, it'll rip up the asphalt and put creases in it.
Oh, that's right. You're
Totally
right.
destroy the asphalt
Because they're so heavy.
because they're so heavy, and it'll cut grooves right in the asphalt because the trucks weigh, a couple 100,000 pounds. So if you're going to turn them sharp and turn them regular and want to be able to use them all the time, the roadway and the area around it needs to be concrete. That's one of the ways that we've been able to spot these things is because they're not using asphalt, gravel, and dirt. They're putting in concrete at these facilities that they're driving around regular. And also look at the parking spots over here.
Yes.
For 3 missiles right there.
That's it.
That's insane. And they can line them up right here, come around the back of the building and shoot right out.
They can do that, or that side to the left of the building.
Yeah.
If there are doors there, they
Right.
can simply drive straight. They've got
straight
plenty of
through,
room.
yeah.
They can
Right.
drive straight out.
Right. Yeah, they've been going around the building though. You can see how
Yes.
long of a
Yeah.
curve this is and how smudgy it makes it. It's one of the other things you can tell. Is it
Yeah,
makes the
based on what we see, what I showed you out at
Right.
the one of the test ranges.
Well, even at the other one in Kaliningrad.
Yes,
You can
same
see
thing.
it. You can see it. Well, I don't have that map up, but you can see it at the facility.
Yeah, you got it. It's there, right there.
Yeah. So when they see them right here,
Uh-huh.
see them right here.
Yep.
So it's the same deal. Yep, exact same deal. All right, what else we got?
That was all I had from the map side of things. That's all I've been able to find since then. But I think an underground S-400 manufacturing facility and all of those underground facilities in Haradna, and then finding the closest deployment we've seen from SS-27s, I think that's significant.
Yes, absolutely. All right, Johnny, what do you got, buddy? I mean, Jeff.
What do I got? You mean in terms of questions?
Questions, information, stuff you found,
Yeah.
stuff you want to talk about?
Right. Well, the U.S. is, my understanding, is supposed to attack Iran tonight, but then I heard that Trump is thinking about it only, not fully decided. Even though the British, what did the British have a cabinet security meeting or something last night?
They put the cabinet on alert.
On alert.
Yeah,
Imminent attack.
Yeah, and the HMS Queen Elizabeth passed through the Suez Canal today, unscheduled.
Carrying troops?
Yes, had full flight deck.
Oh, I see. The QE2. I remember the Falklands War. That was a troop carrying. No, it's a carrier.
It was a carrier, yes.
It's so the British have sent their carrier
Yes.
through. Oh, a British carrier's coming. Oh my
Yes.
gosh, Iran is in for a pounding. I don't think Trump's going to change his mind if all that's lined up.
I don't think so either.
No, it looks like. And so, what do you guys make of it? I was interested is that the accounts of the Shah of Iran's son, the Crown Prince, indicate some of those people are indicating that there are generals, regular army generals, who are pledged allegiance to the ostensible new Shah. Have you heard this? And is there any validity to it? And would the army revolt against the Iranian Republican Guard Corps? Revolutionary Guard Corps. Sorry. Would that be possible? Are we looking at do they really have the parts of the Iranian military ready to start a civil war that we will then support with air power? Is that the reason for the no-fly zone?
I
I mean,
don't
the
think they'll do
no-fly
it.
zone indicates they expect a revolt, right?
I don't think they'll do it. I don't think the U.S. would back it.
Really?
Nope. Every opportunity we've given them to do it before, the U.S. has never backed it.
Why the no-fly zone then? Is this just bluff and bluster?
That's in case they do want to shoot something. Because you don't want to shoot down aircraft like Iran almost did the other night, or like Russia was firing at commercial airliners.
Well, Russia's still sticking to their ultimatum that they give in the U.S., saying that they should not get involved. And then, of course, now, and this you couldn't make this up, the Chinese and the North Koreans say that they would like to mediate peace in the Middle East.
At the same time that North Koreans are sending North Koreans into Russia to build drones to attack Ukraine
Yes.
at more than 1,000 drones a day.
Is there any indication that the Russians have moved any air force units into Azerbaijan?
Not that I have
I've
seen.
not heard, not that
No.
I've heard yet.
Yeah, because that comment by Peskov yesterday about we're going to evacuate Azerbaijan.
They're already doing it.
Why would they evacuate Azerbaijan?
He said
The
their
Russians.
citizens
Yeah.
are. Yeah, he said their citizens are already leaving Azerbaijan.
Why would Russian citizens leave Azerbaijan?
I don't know. And I did send you a message last night. The Chinese, as of today, they're going to begin pulling all of their citizens out of Israel. Same thing with the Russians. However, since no flights are leaving, they're going to be evacuated from. The Chinese will be evacuated from Egypt. They'll be bussed over to Egypt, and the Russians will be bussed over to Jordan.
Is there going to be a
And
nuclear exchange? Why would you evacuate to that extent unless you think there's going to be a nuclear exchange? Is there a nuclear exchange in the offing here?
Well, it's entirely possible. We also have Macron last night. You and I were parting ways last night, I said Macron had just released a statement ordering all French citizens to leave Tehran immediately.
Well, of course, and there was a rocket strike that hit an Israeli hospital today. Do we know what the casualties are?
I will see if I can pull a casualty report,
That
but I
they
did
may
see
not
the
have a
math.
number. Yeah. How many hours ago was that?
It was this morning for me. It was
Uh-huh.
this morning local time
yeah,
in
so
Israel
over
as well.
12 hours.
Over 12
Yeah.
hours. So
Yeah.
yeah, gosh, what a disaster. And the Israelis have vowed they're going to strike back for this. They're going to strike back hard.
Yes.
Yes.
What
They're preparing a quote severe response in their words.
now? So far, I saw Netanyahu talking, and he said that they've only struck at military leadership. They have avoided trying to decapitate the civilian leadership. Are they going to transition? Is this going to escalate where they go after the civilian leaders?
It should, after striking a hospital.
Yeah, that's
I will say
pretty
this.
unforgivable.
Speaking of hospitals, and I don't want to stray from the subject, but of Israel and Iran. But speaking of this, and this kind of goes to what we've been talking about in weeks previous, Romania is preparing their population in their hospitals for wartime scenarios as of today.
And we heard last night from California that the CERT teams out there are telling people to stockpile 30 days of food, water, and medical supplies. That's in the U.S.
The casualty number on the hospital, from what I can see at the moment, 271.
Wow.
That's dead and or injured.
And we know that Israel has hit the Iranian nuclear facility, and now Iran has told people in Israel to evacuate from the Israeli nuclear facility because Iran is saying that they're going to hit it. Also, Iran has hit the same as the Pentagon for the Israelis. That was done 2 days ago.
And of course, Hezbollah's implying that they're going to attack them in America. They're going to go here.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, with Biden's open border for so many years, how many operatives do you suppose? I've heard that there's over 2,000 Islamic, not necessarily Hezbollah, but there's 2,000 Islamic operatives here
That's
in this
closer to
country.
millions.
I think John Guandolo gave this number. This is an FBI estimate of, terrorists. There's millions of Muslims here, but actual
No,
people who are trained.
there's more than 2,000. We've trained thousands in the United States alone at the 13 training areas in the U.S. There's 13 Islamic Jihad training areas in the U.S.
So in the midst of the rioting, the jihadists are going to appear,
Yep.
and you're not going to be able to tell the anti-ICE protesters from the people that ICE allowed in to
Yep.
burn everything down.
Yep.
So basically,
I'm
the
still
left is
concerned
set
with
up.
the 10,000 flamethrowers that Obama gave away to people that live in the Michigan area.
Could
I
you
didn't hear about that one.
explain that
Yeah, can you
flamethrower?
elaborate on that, please?
Yeah. So when Obama was in office, Obama decided that using flamethrowers was not a tactic that we should use in the military anymore. The United States had over 10,000 of them in our inventory, and Obama gave them away to the residents of Michigan. And people were picking them up like hotcakes. And so
I would
now
have.
there are
If I would have been
10,000.
offered one, I would have
Right.
taken
Now
one.
there are 10,000 uh, flamethrowers that were released to the general public. And at the exact same time, the Chinese just introduced flamethrowers to all of their platoons. So the Chinese military is now using flamethrowers in all of their platoons. And at the same time they're doing that, we gave ours away. And
Is it
it's
entirely possible they could have gotten a hold of one and just copied it?
they could have, but the U.S. got rid of ours, and the Chinese implemented a new flamethrower into their military. It was literally within a month. The Chinese introduced one, and then the U.S. gives them away. And I was wondering, why we've got flamethrowers stored all over the United States. Why do we have to go give them to people that only live in Michigan? That was my concern at the time. Why only in Michigan? Is there more ice in Michigan? You need to melt the roads off. What's the purpose of only giving flamethrowers out at the distribution facility in Michigan? So that's always bothered me that Obama did that. So yeah, a lot of crazy stuff has happened that we're not doing anything about, but we should have a long time ago. But we've let millions of radical Muslims into the United States. Millions. And we've trained well over 500,000 here in the United States in jihadi training grounds.
Inside the United States.
Inside the United States. There are 13 major jihadi training areas. There's over 30 total, but there are over 13 major, 15 major jihadi training areas capable of training thousands of troops at a time. And they're all over the United States. Hell, there's several here just in the state of Texas. In fact, the FBI put out a map of them years ago. And we don't do anything about it. In fact, we've changed the rules so as that the word jihad and holy war and things of that nature are no longer considered terroristic words and were pulled from the list of words to look for. So you can talk about a jihad, you can talk about a holy war, you can talk about training terrorists. U.S. government won't do anything to you because those words aren't on the list anymore. Thank you, Mr. Obama.
Well, Jeff and Lee, you'll both be happy to know, and rest assured that because this individual is on the job, that there could be a diplomatic solution to what's going on with Iran. Steve Witkoff has been put in charge of talking to the Iranian foreign minister, and they've spoken by phone several times in the last 2 days in an attempt to diplomatically resolve this crisis.
I thought they were going to call that stupid fucker Tucker and let him come in and negotiate.
You might as well have him in there.
Right. And I call him Steve Wackoff instead of Witkoff, but anyway.
He is something.
Yeah. Very interesting what we're seeing here. And the Chinese have vowed to support Iran. The Russians have vowed to support Iran. Pakistan has vowed to support Iran.
Speaking of the Chinese, since this conflict began, I've been watching Chinese cargo aircraft, and I've seen at least 3 of them. I was telling you on the phone last night, Lee. I've seen at least 3 of them in the last 2 days go into Iran. They've entered Iranian airspace, and about 150 to 200 miles in, they start to drop altitude and they turn the transponder off. So I don't know where they go, but I've not seen the planes come out of there. So whatever they're carrying in there, that's a mystery.
Well, we know that the Russians have been carrying nuclear equipment in there.
Yeah, that's the other thing. There was a launch by the Iranians last night of a medium-range ballistic missile. Some suspected that it could have possibly carried a nuclear warhead on it because it had a range of 2,000 to 4,000 kilometers and could yield a warhead up to 1,800 to 2,000 kilograms, which is pretty large. But as far as this thing going nuclear, I mean, there is a danger there. But Jeff, maybe you can jump in on this one. But there is a danger there. But I don't know. I don't know exactly what that would entail as far as a response. I mean, I remember Jeff saying at some point, and you can clarify, Jeff, that the Russians and the Chinese need to figure out what our response is going to be to a nuclear detonation, and this could be that time to do that.
Well, there's another avenue is that everybody knows that the Russians for more than half a century have been hysterical in stopping Western nuclear weapons development and building because they want to have a monopoly on it. And this was explained. There's a book called Why the Soviets Why the Soviets Violate Arms Control Treaties. Douglas wrote it, but it was really a bunch of articles by a number of defectors and other experts examining this question. And what the defectors said is that there was always this intention to disarm the West by some trick or means. And we know that the collapse of communism in Russia served that purpose to great extent. There hasn't been a nuclear weapon built or tested by the United States or Great Britain since 1992. France's last test was 96. So the Western countries have neglected their nuclear arsenals. We're about to conduct the first nuclear test in a long time. Isn't that right, Lee? That's coming up soon.
Yes, and Russia continues to do them.
Yeah, and of course they've got their laboratories in North Korea, because the North Korean nuclear program is really a Russian one.
Correct.
So all the tests there are really monitored by Russian nuclear scientists and engineers. So this whole idea of nuclear war, see, psychologically, nuclear weapons, Japan, which was committed to, national suicide just about to resist the Americans in World War II. The whole island was ready to die to defend the emperor. They basically surrendered after the nuclear bombing. Of course, we allowed them to keep the emperor wisely, because they probably wouldn't have if it hadn't been for that. And of course, so the bomb had a psychological effect. We know its psychological effects may be stronger than the actual physical effects, especially when those physical effects are exaggerated in terms of what the bombs can do. And so I think that having a laboratory, the Middle East being a laboratory for experimenting with the first use of nuclear weapons since 1945, is not a completely outlandish idea. If, Lee, your testimony that these Russian aircraft that carry nuclear weapons were coming into Iran here in March,
Yep.
and that there were underground nuclear tests, what would you say, 3 of them in April?
Yes.
And like 2 around April 6th, is that right?
I don't have it in front of me, but yeah, that
And then
sounds right.
later in the month, there was another one. So the thing is the thing about Russian nuclear weapons, which is fascinating, is the Russians would have the codes for arming the warheads. The
Yep.
Iranians would be dependent on the Russians allowing the codes. That would mean Russian advisors or crews would be with the missile teams. Those things would only be launched with Russian say-so.
And Russians were at the Iranian nuclear facility and said that they refused to leave.
Yeah, see, that's indicative. And the other thing that's very intensely that I should remark upon, and we should not be naive about this, is that when Russia helps a country like Iran or Iraq, it puts their agents everywhere. They end up in partial control of any regime that they assist. The Chinese the same way. I would assume the Russians have agents everywhere in the Iranian system. And here is important. Here, their military leadership has been partially eliminated by bombing. Their civilian leadership could be next, but their civilian leadership is in bunkers where the bunkers communications could be cut. So you could have a situation where the Russian advisors take charge of one of the more advanced Iranian missiles that can go very quickly and is not subject to easy interception. And they could arm a Russian warhead on that and send it to Tel Aviv.
Correct.
They could do that. And we should not rule that out, because it's really to Russia's advantage right now for Iran to hit Tel Aviv with a nuke. And this may explain the evacuations. It may explain a lot of things about what we've been seeing. And of course, the joke about evacuating Azerbaijan, check for fallout patterns. Would it catch fallout from the Middle East? Is that possible? Are there southerlies that blow this time of year?
I think so. Also, one other thing, and this has been really quiet. Pakistan has closed their land border with Iran as of yesterday.
Because of anticipating refugees, a flood of people fleeing Iran in the event of a nuclear. Yes, look, you cannot rule out this kind of brutality when the Russians are in control. And the Russian advisors have been the key to building up. I mean, Iran did not come up with one of the most incredible ballistic missile industries in the world, where they build these things like sausages, and they're going to have at some point they're going to have 20,000 missiles if they keep going at the rate. I think Netanyahu said that in 5 or 6 years they'll have 20,000 ballistic missiles ready to go. Now, that's hard to imagine. I mean, you think about at the height of the Cold War when the United States, with MIRVable warheads, maybe could MIRV a couple thousand warheads or 3,000. I forget what the numbers are. Maybe it was 5,000 warheads, all told, land-based, naval, and bomber delivered. But here, in this case, 20,000. A country the size of Iran, 90 million people. What is going on? And the Russians had to be involved in that. The Russians are the ballistic missile people. This is their
Right.
weapon. This is what they specialize in. They've always been good at this. They've been using them like heck on the Ukrainians. The Russians are hip deep in this. So they could actually, on their own, through their agents of control, their operatives, and their connections with a decapitated Iranian military missile forces, they could launch a nuke. It's possible. Don't rule it out.
I think they want to.
Yes, I do think if I were in the Kremlin and I were General Blood or one of those other generals, isn't that the kind of psychopathic, ingenious move that they would be thinking of? Because think of what it would do. First, all the nations in the world would be shocked. First use
Yeah.
of nuclear weapons. You're crossing this barrier. The Israeli response would be brutal. It would ignite the Middle East in an emotional way, psychologically, and it would be that laboratory. The Russians want to know the effect. And of course, there would be calls from the left and now from the MAGA right for a giant peace. We just saw Trump's director of national intelligence give a speech on TV last week saying we've got to stop the nuclear madness. Well, what nuclear madness? There hasn't been a nuke used since 1945. How is there going to be a nuclear war? Well, you do something like this and suddenly Tulsi Gabbard looks like a prophetess. Oh boy, she was wise before her time.
I'm calling her Tulsi garbage.
Yeah. And it's, of course,
and
we know that she supports Russia. We know this.
You heard Trump say he didn't care what she said.
Yeah, I think Trump is under some kind of pressure, maybe some kind of blackmail pressure from the Russians or Chinese. I think that this is the reason he's backed away from helping Ukraine all this time. And he won't punish Russia with sanctions, though he's talked about it. He's not doing that. And
he's disbanded the group.
Yeah, he is. He's basically, they're getting ready to abandon Ukraine. The Americans are. And now this turn to Iran. Well, Russia doesn't really want the turn to Iran, except maybe they do. Maybe the Russians and Chinese, this is where they want the war to be. That will enable Russia to win the war in Ukraine and give an opening for China to begin something in the Pacific. And once it's nuclear, once you get this Russia and China will be, we don't want nuclear weapons either. And nobody can trust them. And then we don't develop those new nuclear warheads we're working on now. It all gets killed. We don't end up doing more nuclear tests because of this. Is that what would happen? Is that what the political fallout would be? Don't know.
We're already behind the curve because we haven't developed any road mobile ICBMs. The Russians developed those. We never developed those. We never developed the anything as far as the anti-ballistic missiles. The missile shields. We never developed those either because of SALT, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yeah. And this is the thing. Well, of course, that treaty's not in effect anymore. None of them are. The Russians weren't.
Yeah, we withdrew
strictly
from
anyway.
Yeah.
I think the Russians have brought you. You've looked at the deployment of SS-27s. At least the facilities. What you've showed me, Johnny, is facilities to house at least 100, half the fleet. There's 200 SS-27 ICBMs, road mobile, in Russia, and we've seen preparations to move at least half, maybe more, up to NATO's border. That's a low trajectory surprise attack deployment. And every general in NATO knows it. If they don't, then they're as ignorant as Hexeth, right?
And we have them. Not only is it a plan to move them up there, we have them already sitting there.
Yeah, we have dozens of them that we can see the noses sticking out of the
Yeah.
buildings, or they're out in the
Yeah.
open.
Yeah.
There were two out in the open in the photograph from Kaliningrad, in a
Yeah.
bunker that could hold 50, or not a facility that could hold 50 of them.
Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm thinking out loud like you would at a military conference, somebody talking strategy. I'm thinking out loud about this. And these are all factors that people should be considering, how this scenario could be played out, because I think everything here has been choreographed in advance. I really do. I don't think any of this is at random. And the fact that, I mean, what provoked Netanyahu to choose the timing of now? The Iranians have probably had a nuclear weapon as long as the North Koreans have had one. We know the story. Joseph Bodansky put in the story years ago that Kazakhstan gave nuclear weapons, or sold nuclear weapons to Iran back in 92, 93, before they got rid of theirs. You've heard that, Lee, right?
I've heard it. I couldn't prove it, but that's what I
I've
heard.
heard the story from more than one source, by the way. I've heard
Yep.
it from other American sources. Joseph Bodansky wrote about it in 2 different books. They were sold without their triggers is the story. Well, you could get a trigger from Pakistan. You can make your own trigger if you've got this much time. And they have
But the problem is, after 10 to 12 years, the tritium in that warhead and the explosives in that warhead become unstable and unpredictable, and you
Right.
don't get a good yield. So after 10 years, the warhead is really worthless.
Right, but then they've got a model for building new ones.
Right,
The
exactly.
idea that they haven't been able to get weapons grade plutonium from, Pakistan, from China, or from Russia is, it's a very, is that really possible? With the Russians, the kind of help the Russians have given to North Korea. I
Right.
think that given the kind of regime, I mean, given the fact that, someone who worked at the CIA, I know that was worked on the Iran, in the Iran section, said that the most of the clerical leaders ruling Iran were educated at Moscow State University. How many of them were recruited to be Russian or Soviet agents because they were educated under the Soviet Union? Joseph Bodansky points to the linkages between the KGB and the Iranian regime in 1979 when it first took power. And we know the KGB was involved in the hostage taking at the American embassy in 79 that really wrecked the Carter presidency. So there's these intimate connections that go way back. And if you want, I mean, look, and also the Russians are all up in Israel. Did the Russians give Israel information, or in some way allow information to leak to the Israelis that panicked them into this, that
I
then
think
pushed
the Israelis
Trump
knew
into
it got ticked off after the 3 underground tests.
That would certainly do it.
Yeah. I think the 3 tests are what tripped the wire for Israel. And Trump hasn't went along with it. Bibi's been pushing it. Trump says no, and Bibi just finally had enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and of course he's a hardliner in terms of defending his country, as he should be. And so, but the timing is interesting, isn't it? This is the ultimate moment in the Ukraine war, where a switch to the Middle East, right at the moment when the Russian position looks hopeless, right at the moment when the Russians are actually building up to attack the Baltic states and to threaten NATO with a mass nuclear assault, and then you have nuclear events in the Middle East. It's the perfect thing, isn't it?
And did you hear Lenshenko is pulling troops back from the Ukrainian border for the exercise?
Well, that's interesting because he had earlier said that the exercise in September will be in eastern Belarus. He wanted to pull it away from the NATO borders. Is he going
Now
back?
he's pulling it away from the Ukrainian border, and he's pulling it more north.
See, I think that everything you can't, watch their lips. They're lying when their lips are moving.
Right.
They lie just to keep in practice. We can't take what they say, but what they do really reveals their hand. It's like what they do signals what is going to happen more than what they say. And these deployments that we see in Belarus and the way their air force is deployed and the air traffic from China and this air traffic you saw in advance. We talked about this, Lee, in March
Mm-hmm.
about these Russian flights to Iran,
Right.
carrying from the planes that carry Russian nukes around.
Right.
So this was set up, and the Russians are the masterminds of this setting up. It's
Eh,
going to play to their advantage. It already has, but I think there's a bigger play here.
I agree with you 100%. I think the Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians, the North Koreans, and other BRICS members are all working together to choreograph this. And I think that they're trying to hodo Trump and, get him to believe one thing while they're actually doing something else. They're talking about peace, but they have no intentions of that. They're just saying it. So it's
Well, you also
pretty
have to consider that they use the same words as we do, but they have a different meaning to them.
right.
So if the Russians say, just for clarification for people, if the Russians say that they want peace, that means for us, that means peace and quiet. Everyone's going to calm down. Everyone's going to go back to their daily lives, and there's not going to be any more conflict. That's peace to us. Peace to the Russians or to the Chinese or the North Koreans or the Venezuelans or whoever. That means you're all dead.
Right.
That's unconditional surrender to everybody. And they're going to take everything over and they're going to take everything you have. That's peace to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because there cannot be peace until there's a total communist revolution and they win. That's peace.
Yep. Exactly. And they're planning on going into Europe. Anybody that doesn't think they're planning on going into Europe now hasn't been paying attention.
100%. And what are we doing? We're pulling. Did you see how many C-17s we have flown out of Europe to the Middle East in the last 24 hours?
A bunch.
It's
We
it.
also have
We're over 10.
45
Yeah.
fuel. We also have 45 refuelers in 3 different military bases in Europe right now. Spain, Germany, and the UK. 45 aerial refuelers. KC-135s, KC-46s. 45 flew over in 24 hours.
We have moved 8 C-17s in the last 24 hours out of Europe.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to turn spicy.
14 total in total. 14 military cargo planes have landed in Israel from the United States out of Germany in the last 24 hours.
Well, we're delivering them something.
Well, there have been, just to put that into perspective, since this all started on October 7th, which is Putin's birthday, by the way, in 2023, a total of 800 cargo planes have made runs to Israel since that time.
Wow. So more than one a day.
Yes.
Wow. Crazy.
As far as I didn't have anything else. I don't know how long we've been going. How long have we
Just a
been
little
on?
over an hour.
A little over an hour. Any questions coming in? Is there any questions from anybody?
I don't know. I can ask here. Do we got any questions for Jeff, Johnny, or myself? If you do, put those into the chat. Also, starting next month, this will be premium content. Rumble has put a requirement on me and other content providers to provide 20 hours of premium content per month with additional hours of regular content. Wonton says we should count how many cargo planes have gone to Prince Sultan in Saudi Arabia. The reason Ukraine can't attack Kaliningrad is because um, they're having a hard enough time fighting the Russians. They don't need to be wasting their ammunition attacking Kaliningrad. It's not their war. So, what do you guys make of all of the U.S. aircraft disappearing out of Qatar?
Well, that particular airfield, I don't know. Have you been out there? It's not particularly the most. It's not the most defensible position. So I'm assuming that they moved them out of there because of some vulnerabilities. Would
Hmm.
be my guess.
All U.S. military bases are vulnerable.
I'm
It
not going to
doesn't,
disagree with that.
but it,
I'm
it
not going
doesn't
to
matter.
disagree
It
with that.
doesn't matter if they're overseas or even in the United States. I mean, there's places in the United States you can drive down the interstate, pull over on the side of the road, and take out a bunch of American aircraft with 22. I mean, I think that's absolutely ludicrous that we have military aircraft lined up beside the interstate or beside public roads that people can just pull up and fire directly on our military aircraft.
I
Imagine
think
that.
it's Yeah, I think it's actually worse than that. We were talking one time about a lot of our oil refineries. You know, a lot of
Oh, yeah.
our key facilities that we
Right.
need, and there are no kind of security checks other than just a simple guardhouse and maybe a gate, and that's about it. Anybody can drive up onto those things.
Uh, yeah. The aircraft carrier is not the QE2. It is just the Queen Elizabeth. Gamer, I don't think that we're going to give the go word to go into Iran.
You really think he's gonna chicken out?
He has what has he not chickened out on so far?
Yeah. Well,
I
but you
mean,
see,
what
if he's
in
doing
this
what
in
the
this
Russians want,
right?
he did what the Russians wanted in Ukraine. Now the Russians maybe want him to do something in Iran.
I don't think they do.
The CIA director, Radcliffe, was just in a closed door hearing and said that the Iranians are very close to possessing nuclear weapons, quote, at the 1 yard line.
Hmm. They already produce them. They already have 9.
Yes, that is actually my argument to people that say, well, they took out this facility, the Israelis took out that facility, they took out this one, and I said it becomes a moot point because if you take out one of them or if you take out 100 of them, if they've already got what they need, it makes those facilities and those targets irrelevant, doesn't it?
Yep.
Just like the North Koreans, you can take out all of their nuclear centrifuges and their enrichment facilities, but they've already got the bomb, right?
Yep. Yep. They've already got it with the help of Russia. And China is backing Iran. Russia is backing Iran. Pakistan is backing Iran. North Korea is backing Iran. So, what's the U.S. going to do? Pound sand about is the most we can do. And Trump, see, this is the thing about Trump on this administration and his last administration. On his last administration, if you messed with him, he would level you. The Taliban, other terrorist organizations found that out. In Syria, in Iraq, Afghanistan, these guys would do stupid shit. Trump would blow the hell out of them. Bomb their residence, bomb their hometown, bomb their homes, kill them while they were in a caravan, kill them while they were at a meeting. Now he shakes hands with former leaders of terrorist organizations. He just did that in Syria the other day.
Jelani
Yeah.
had a
So
$10 million bounty on his head the day that Trump was inaugurated. And now all of a sudden he's a peacemaker.
yeah, $10 million bounty on his head. 100 days later, Trump wants to have lunch with him. Hell, invite him down to Mar-a-Lago and teach him how to play golf. I mean, it's absolutely insane. HM Prince left with HMS Defender and Dauntless. So Prince of Wales left Portsmouth on the 22nd of April and has been in the Strait of Hormuz. All right, so what else we got? Johnny, Jeff?
I think that's
Um,
pretty much it for me.
yeah, I think that's about it. That's all I have.
Okay. Well, we definitely need to do this next week, and we also need to keep a close eye on what Israel and Iran are up to. So, all right. Any more questions from the chat before I release Jeff and Johnny here? Mac, are you saying there's a 105 character EAM coming in now? Is that what you think?
105.
105 character, yeah.
Would that be
That's
the
a lot.
attack order?
Could be.
It's about the right time.
Yeah. Yes, Scarecrow. I do think that China would bring in special radars to try to track the stealth jets. In fact, they've already been doing that. So, in fact, China already has a radar that they claim can track stealth jets. All right. No, that's not the EAM. Sorry. That's Mac's number. So yeah, we're going to continue to monitor it. If we hear more, we'll let you know as soon as we hear it. So, all right, gentlemen, I want to thank you guys for being here and being part of the show. And we look forward to doing this again next Thursday. So thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we will do this again.
That's all, folks.